12-year-old Rhianna Barreau disappeared from her home in Wakefield Avenue, Morphett Vale, South Australia on October 7, 1992. Rhianna shared the home with her mother Paula and brother Shannon. Although Rhianna's parents were no longer together, she remained close to both of them. Rhianna's dad Leon was living on the Gold Coast, Queensland, at the time with his wife Sandra. It was the summer school holidays, and while Rhianna usually spent her break with her dad up north, this time she had chosen to stay home with her mom. Her brother Shannon was away on school camp. That morning at approximately 8:30 a.m., her mother Paula was about to leave the family home and go to work. Rhianna was planning to catch the bus to meet her mother that day at the Colonnades shopping center, which was approximately 6 kilometers from her home, to buy a Christmas card for her American pen pal. Paula had heard on the radio that there was going to be a bus strike that day, and went into Rhianna's room to discuss the change of plans. She entered her bedroom where Rhianna was listening to music. Paula suggested that because of the bus strike, maybe she could walk to the Rhianna shopping center instead. This shopping center was only approximately 1.5 kilometers and around a 20-minute walk away from her house. Paula then gave her daughter a kiss goodbye, and unfortunately this was the last time she ever saw her. It is thought that Rhianna remained at her home until approximately 10:30 a.m., when she was seen leaving, walking in the directions of the shops. Sources claim that Rhianna bought the card for her pen pal from the newsagents at 11:19 a.m. Rhianna was then sighted again between 12:05 p.m. and 12:30 p.m. walking through the grounds of Morphett Vale High School, carrying a small bag thought that contained the card. Some sources claim this was the last sighting of Rhianna, though I also read a number of articles that stated there was another sighting of her at 4:00 p.m. standing alone at the junction of David Terrace and Acre Avenue, which is approximately a 6-minute walk from her home on Wakefield Avenue. At approximately 4:10 p.m., Paula Barreau returned to her family home to find the door locked. When she entered the house, she was met with a record lying on the floor and the TV still on. On the dining room table was a card that Rhianna had bought for her pen pal, still there in its plastic wrapper. While Rhianna's personal belongings were still in the house, there was no sign of her daughter. Paula searched inside and outside, and knocked on the door of her neighbors' houses, but there was no sign of Rhianna. Although Paula had hoped that maybe she accidentally overstayed at a friend's house, she knew deep down this was unlikely. And by 6 p.m. the police were contacted. 2 days later, Mr. Alan Arthur was called in to lead the investigation. From the time I went through the preliminary statements gathered by the 2 detectives from Major Crime and read all the additional information that was being gathered, I knew something was wrong. I knew she was in trouble, he said. At the time, we established that she'd been seen at the shopping center, that she was seen walking through the Morphett Vale School, and we can only assume that she was on her way home with the cards from the shop. After that, there is very, very little. Since this day, there have been some potential leads that have been released to the public, but unfortunately haven't led to an arrest. Many people mention a white 2-door Holden Torana with Victorian license plates that had been seen circling the area days before Rhianna disappeared. One neighbor of Rhianna's has stated that her husband saw a white Torana parked in the street on and off in the days prior to the abduction, but he hasn't seen it since. Police thought they had a breakthrough and went public with a sighting of the white Torana. However, the sightings of the Torana led police nowhere. Several women have reported to being followed by the same 2-door Torana in that area. Police have asked for the driver of this Torana to come forward for many, many years, but at this point, nobody ever has. I have some doubts whether it was a white Torana and with Victorian number plates, only because we hadn't found it and we spent a lot of time looking at white Toranas, Mr. Arthur said. Another neighbor of Rhianna's also reported hearing a young girl screaming on the afternoon of the disappearance, but was unknown if this was related to the case. Searches for Rhianna at the time were widespread and thorough, and unfortunately nothing has been found to lead to any arrest. Police believe due to Rhianna's age and lack of contact from her for nearly 30 years, they can assume Rhianna is no longer alive. They believe she was likely murdered not long after she was abducted. Police are offering immunity and a $1 million reward for information and leads to the arrest of the disappearance or murder of Rhianna.